She opened her door to a rain-soaked stranger and his shivering daughter, never guessing he was the man who would soon own her company, or maybe her heart. The rain had started as a soft drizzle, just enough to make the road shimmer under the headlights. Caleb Stone adjusted the rearview mirror, glancing at the small figure bundled up in the back seat. Lily, his 6-year-old daughter, had finally fallen asleep, her head resting on her pink unicorn backpack, curls plastered to her forehead from the humidity. Her lips were slightly parted, and the steady rise and fall of her chest brought him a little peace. They had spent the weekend visiting her grandparents, his late wife's parents, and though the visit was cordial, it had been emotionally draining. Memories hung like thick fog in their home. Pictures on the wall, her childhood drawings, the sound of her name spoken with careful reverence. Caleb had driven back that evening hoping the silence of the road would help clear his mind. But fate had other plans. Just as they passed a narrow bend on the outskirts of a quiet rural community, 2 figures in hooded jackets stepped into the road. Caleb slammed the brakes. The luxury car jerked to a halt, tires squealing. He barely had time to react before another shadow emerged from the side of the road, rapping on the driver's window with something metallic. "Out!" the man barked. "Now!" Caleb's hands were steady, but his heart thundered. He looked back at Lily, still asleep, and then raised his hands slowly. "Take whatever you want," he said. "Just let me get my daughter out first." The man hesitated, then nodded. Caleb unbuckled and gently lifted Lily from the back seat. She stirred slightly but didn't wake. The thieves moved quickly, grabbing his wallet, watch, phone, and the keys to the sleek black car. Within minutes, they vanished down the road, the purr of the engine fading into the distance. Caleb stood by the roadside, clutching his daughter, rain soaking through his shirt. His breath fogged in the cooling air. The night swallowed the silence that followed. With no phone, no vehicle, and Lily's weight in his arms, he began walking. House lights flickered here and there along the quiet neighborhood, but when he knocked, first once, then twice, then a third time, doors remained shut. One man looked through the blinds, then turned away. A woman cracked the door, but closed it as soon as she saw him standing there with a child. Another simply didn't answer. Caleb didn't blame them. A stranger, drenched and disheveled, showing up after dark? It was reasonable to be cautious. But Lily was starting to shiver now, her arms tightening around his neck, murmuring softly in her sleep. He reached the last house at the end of the cul-de-sac. A modest, pale blue bungalow with a small porch light glowing like a beacon in the darkness. He hesitated, unsure whether to try again, but there was nowhere else to go. He knocked. The door opened a crack. A young woman peered out, hair in a messy bun, oversized sweater slipping off one shoulder. Her expression was wary but not fearful. "Yes?" she asked. "I'm sorry," Caleb said, struggling to find words. "My car was taken. I don't have a phone. My daughter and I," he shifted Lily in his arms. "We just need a place to sit for a moment. Maybe use your phone. I know this is a lot to ask." Her eyes flickered to the child and softened. She opened the door wider. "Come in." The warmth hit him immediately. The smell of cinnamon and tea drifted through the small house. A soft couch, stacks of books, and a sleepy orange cat perched on the window sill made it feel like a place untouched by the harshness of the world outside. "Set her down here," the woman said, motioning to the couch. "I'll grab a towel and something warm." Caleb laid Lily down gently. She stirred, eyes fluttering open for a moment. "Daddy." "It's okay, sweetheart. We're safe." The woman returned with a towel, blankets, and a steaming mug of chamomile tea. She handed it to him without a word. "I'm Eva," she said at last. "And you don't need to explain more. You're welcome to stay here tonight. The guest room's clean." Caleb blinked, unsure whether the heat in his chest was from the tea or her words. "Thank you," he said, voice thick with restrained emotion. "I didn't know where else to go." Eva just nodded, as if she'd done this 100 times before. "You can tell me the rest in the morning," she said softly. "Tonight, just rest." And for the first time in a long time, Caleb allowed himself to exhale. The morning sunlight filtered in through gauzy curtains, casting a soft glow across the guest room walls. Eva had placed fresh linens on the bed the night before, not expecting they'd be used so soon, let alone by a stranger and his daughter. Caleb awoke to the sound of birdsong and the faint scent of coffee wafting down the hallway. For a moment he lay still, the warmth of the bed and the silence around him unfamiliar. His hand instinctively reached toward the edge of the bed. Lily wasn't there. Panic flared in his chest. He sat up quickly, heart pounding, but then heard a giggle from the other side of the house. Lily. He stepped into the hallway barefoot, careful not to intrude. The living room looked different in the daylight. Cozy and cluttered in a lived-in way. Half-finished jigsaw puzzle on the coffee table, a worn reading chair with a throw draped over it, and that orange cat curled up on the window ledge. There, in the kitchen, stood Eva. She was wearing the same oversized sweater from the night before, now paired with leggings and fuzzy socks. Her back was turned as she flipped pancakes on a griddle. Lily sat at the small kitchen table, swinging her legs and sipping from a mug of warm milk. Caleb cleared his throat softly. Eva turned, spatula in hand, and offered him a kind smile. "Good morning." "Morning," he said, his voice still rough with sleep. "Sorry, I didn't mean to." "You're fine," she said gently. "Pancakes?" Lily perked up. "Daddy, Miss Eva makes the pancakes with chocolate chips." Eva gave her a wink. "Only on Sundays. And I guess today is Sunday now." Caleb smiled for the first time in what felt like weeks. "That sounds like a lucky coincidence." They ate quietly, with Lily occasionally chiming in with stories about their trip, talking about a toy she'd left in the stolen car, or asking if she could draw later. Eva listened intently, never once asking intrusive questions, never prying into Caleb's business. After breakfast, she offered Caleb the use of her phone. He called a close colleague to arrange a pickup, keeping details vague. Eva stepped out to the porch while he made the call, giving him privacy. Less than an hour later, a sleek black SUV pulled up outside. A well-dressed man stepped out, concern etched into his expression. "You all right, sir?" the man asked. Caleb nodded. "I'll explain everything in the car. Thanks for coming." He turned back to Eva, who stood at the door with Lily beside her. The little girl hugged Eva tightly around the waist. "Thank you for the pancakes," Lily said sweetly. Eva crouched down and smiled. "You're very welcome, sweetheart. Stay safe, okay?" Caleb extended his hand to her. "I can't thank you enough. If there's anything I can ever do to repay you." Eva shook her head. "You don't need to. Just take care of her." Their hands lingered in a handshake longer than necessary, a quiet exchange of gratitude and something else, something unsaid. And then he was gone. 2 weeks later, Eva stood outside a towering glass building in the heart of downtown, clutching her small handbag and a folder of HR documents. She stared up at the pristine logo etched into the marble overhang, Stone Tech Innovations. Her heart raced. This was her first day on the job. The opportunity had come fast. An unexpected callback from a recruiter who found her portfolio online. A junior graphic designer role at one of the most respected tech companies in the state. She'd taken it without hesitation. Now, standing in the gleaming lobby beneath high ceilings and surrounded by people in tailored suits, she felt both exhilarated and out of place. She passed security, took the elevator up to the 17th floor, and was ushered into a sleek conference room where other new hires were already seated. A nervous energy buzzed in the air. A woman in a navy blazer, the HR manager, introduced herself and began the onboarding presentation. Halfway through, she paused and smiled toward the door. "We're honored to have a quick welcome from our CEO this morning. He's a busy man, so we appreciate his time. Everyone, this is Mr. Caleb Stone." Eva froze. The air shifted. Caleb walked in, wearing a crisp gray suit, his presence quiet but commanding. His expression was neutral, eyes scanning the room casually, until they landed on her. His gaze faltered for a second. Eva stared back, her mouth slightly open. He looked exactly the same, except now the warmth from that rainy night was hidden beneath a professional facade. He blinked once, just enough to acknowledge her. Then his focus returned to the group. I know you've already been welcomed, Caleb said, his voice smooth and assured. But I wanted to personally say we're glad you're here. We're a company built on innovation, but more importantly on people. We believe in respect, resilience, and doing right by one another. If you have a good idea, I want to hear it. If something's not working, speak up. His eyes flicked back to Eva, just for a second. You're not just numbers here. You matter. And I hope, as you settle in, you come to believe that too. He offered a small nod and exited as quickly as he came. The room buzzed with admiration. One of the interns whispered, "He's even hotter in real life." Eva couldn't move. Her mind reeled. That man, that CEO, that stranger from the rainy night, was him. He hadn't acknowledged her by name. He hadn't said a word to her directly. But something in his eyes said he hadn't forgotten a thing. The day passed in a blur of passwords, introductions, and protocol. Eva moved from orientation to her department with mechanical precision, smiling when appropriate, nodding along to overenthusiastic managers, and absorbing floor plans, team hierarchies, and project goals. But beneath her professional exterior, her thoughts remained entangled in a single thread. He was the CEO. Caleb. The man she had offered tea and shelter to. The same man she had handed a towel and warm socks. Was the man whose company logo now hovered on her work ID badge. She felt like she was living someone else's dream. Or maybe their mistake. Her team lead, a sharply dressed woman named Dahlia, gave her a quick tour of the design floor. Open concept desks, a brainstorming lounge, collaborative wall space filled with mood boards and tech wire frames. It all looked so much grander than anything Eva had experienced. She barely listened. By late afternoon, she had settled into her new workstation. Sleek desk, dual monitors, and a small nameplate hastily printed. Eva Moore, creative team. She was just unpacking a small notebook from her bag when her internal office messenger chimed. From C. Stone. Subject, brief meeting, 5:10 p.m. Location, Executive Suite, 18th floor. Message, come up when you're free. Just want a moment. Caleb. Her stomach dropped. For the rest of the hour, Eva couldn't focus on anything. Was she in trouble? Was he going to ask her to keep quiet? Did she violate some weird clause she hadn't read in her contract? At precisely 5:09 p.m., she took the elevator to the executive floor, one level above the rest of the company. The air felt colder up there. Quieter. Less like a workplace and more like a museum of ambition. Glass walls, abstract art, and views that stretched past the skyline. Caleb's office door was already slightly ajar. She raised a hesitant hand and knocked softly. Come in. His voice was calm. The same voice she'd heard thanking her in the dead of night. But here it carried authority. Eva stepped inside. Caleb stood near the window, jacket off, sleeves rolled neatly to his elbows, hands in his pockets. The sunset poured in behind him, casting long shadows across the polished wood floor. He turned slowly and offered a small smile. Not the CEO smile. The one he wore that night, tired, sincere. I hope this didn't make your heart race too much, he said gently. I just wanted to talk. Privately. Eva stayed near the door, her hand still on the handle. Honestly, I didn't know what to expect. I'm not angry, he said quickly. You didn't do anything wrong. She let go of the doorknob and took a tentative step forward. But you didn't say anything earlier. In the meeting. I thought maybe. That I was pretending not to know you? He asked, finishing her sentence. She hesitated, then nodded. Caleb exhaled and moved to sit at the edge of the sleek black leather sofa that lined the wall. I didn't want to make you uncomfortable. I figured it would be easier to speak one-on-one. Eva crossed her arms over her chest, not defensively, but to ground herself. I didn't know who you were. I mean, when I let you and Lily in, I thought you were just some guy who had the worst night of his life. He smiled faintly. You weren't wrong. Eva relaxed slightly. I didn't plan on you showing up here, he continued. The hiring process happens through HR. I had no idea until I saw your name on the orientation list this morning. It's a weird coincidence, Eva said softly, sitting on the edge of the chair across from him. Are you okay with it? Me working here, I mean? Of course, he said, eyebrows lifting. Eva, I wouldn't dream of interfering with your job. You earned that position. I read your portfolio last night, actually. Your visual work is sharp, creative, clean. You belong here. She flushed at the compliment, unsure how to respond. Thank you. A pause lingered between them, stretching just a beat too long. I meant what I said that night, Caleb said, his tone quieter now. You saved us. You didn't know me, but you helped us anyway. Not many people would have opened their door like that. I didn't do anything heroic, she replied quickly. I just couldn't let a little girl sleep out in the cold. Caleb looked down at his hands. You don't realize how rare that kind of kindness is. His words settled heavily into the room. Eva looked at him more closely now. The Caleb before her wasn't the same man who stood at her door soaking wet, clutching his daughter. But he wasn't entirely different either. She could see the same steadiness in his eyes, the quiet strength in how he held himself. He looked up suddenly. I want us to be clear on one thing. There's no conflict of interest here. Your job is secure. No one here knows about that night, and I'll never bring it up unless you do. I don't want to put you in a position where anyone assumes favoritism. You deserve to make your name here without my story in your shadow. Eva's throat tightened. Thank you for saying that. I also want you to know, he added carefully, that if you ever feel uncomfortable for any reason, you can come to me. Or not. That's your call. For the first time in the conversation, Eva smiled, genuine and small. I'm okay. It's just a lot to process. He nodded slowly, standing. Of course. I won't keep you. As she stood to leave, she turned at the doorway. Lily seemed really happy that morning. She's a bright kid. He lit up at the mention of her. Yeah, she is. She called me Miss Eva. I kind of liked that. He chuckled softly. She remembered you. She doesn't forget kindness. Eva gave a gentle nod and opened the door. Just before stepping out, she looked back once more. You looked different that night, she said, almost playfully. Caleb arched a brow. How so? She smiled faintly. You weren't wearing cufflinks in CEO silence. He laughed, an honest, warm laugh. Noted. And just like that, she left, heart pounding, mind racing, unsure of what door she'd really just walked through. The weeks that followed settled into a quiet rhythm. Eva quickly found her footing within StoneTech's creative team, and her contributions began to speak for themselves. Her design instincts, sharp, intuitive, unexpected, quickly earned the respect of her colleagues, and even Dahlia, her often intimidating team lead, began assigning her larger pieces of the rebranding campaign. But even as she grew more confident in her work, Eva couldn't escape the sense that something deeper was shifting beneath the surface. Every now and then she would feel it, a glance caught across a crowded room, a quiet pause in a hallway conversation, a message from Caleb that read like an afterthought but was always perfectly timed. Love the campaign mock-ups. You have an eye for balance. Lily asked if Miss Eva still works here. Thought that might make you smile. And it did. They weren't friends, exactly, not yet. But something familiar began to form. Something real. They moved carefully around it, like two people stepping around a fragile truth neither dared to name. It was a Wednesday evening when the first real moment slipped through. The office had emptied out, the last hum of printers and murmurs of co-workers vanishing down the elevators. Eva remained at her desk, half hunched over her stylus tablet, editing a final pitch slide for the following morning. She had tucked one leg underneath her, hair loose, cardigan sleeves rolled to her elbows. The silence in the office was comforting. She liked it best this way, no distractions, no noise. So she jumped slightly when a voice spoke behind her. You don't have to burn yourself out to prove you belong here. She turned. Caleb stood a few feet away, holding 2 coffees. He extended one toward her. Peace offering, he added with a smirk. She took it slowly, fingers brushing his. For what? For making you work this late. She smiled softly. You didn't make me. I kind of like it here after hours. He leaned casually against the edge of her desk. I get that. It's the only time this place breathes. They sipped their coffee in a silence that felt heavier than it should have. The office lights had dimmed to their automatic nighttime setting, soft golden, like the low hum of candlelight in a forgotten cathedral. Caleb spoke again, this time quieter. I used to stay late every night. After my wife passed. Couldn't stand the silence at home. Eva turned her eyes to him, her hand freezing on the coffee cup. He had never mentioned her before, not once since that night. I'm sorry, she said, her voice soft. He nodded once. Thank you. It's been 3 years now. Feels like both yesterday and a lifetime ago. I didn't know what to say that night, she admitted. You didn't talk much. Just held Lily like the world was falling apart. He gave a quiet laugh, low and short. It was. Eva hesitated. She's amazing, by the way. I still think about how brave she was. Kids sense things. More than we give them credit for. Caleb looked down at his coffee, then back up at her, his eyes softer now. She remembers you. She doesn't remember every person she meets. But you stuck. Eva smiled faintly, unsure how to respond to that. It felt intimate but safe. Do you always hand-deliver coffee to your designers? She teased lightly, trying to ease the weight in the air. He chuckled. Only the ones who let me borrow a blanket and a spare toothbrush for my daughter. They both laughed, and for a moment the room shifted, became smaller, warmer. It wasn't flirtation. It wasn't anything so simple. It was the kind of familiarity that made you forget your defenses. That kind of gentle gravity. That Friday, it happened again. This time, Lily was in the office. School had been closed for a teacher's workday, and Caleb had quietly brought her in with him. The little girl colored contentedly in the corner of his office while he took meetings, and staff smiled as they passed by, amused and charmed by the rare break in corporate decorum. Eva had just returned from a design review when she passed the executive wing and glanced through the half-open door. Miss Eva. Lily's voice rang out, bright and delighted. She hopped down from the couch and ran to the door before Caleb could stop her. Eva smiled. Hey, kiddo. Lily beamed. I made you something. She dragged Eva inside by the hand, then ran back to the coffee table where her papers and crayons were scattered. She handed over a page, an adorably uneven drawing of 3 stick figures standing under a giant house. The smallest one had curly hair and a pink dress. The tallest one had a square jaw and black shoes. The one in the middle held both their hands. Caleb looked up from his laptop, surprised. Lily pointed eagerly. That's me, that's Daddy, and that's you. That's the night you saved us. Eva blinked. Her throat tightened unexpectedly. She looked at Caleb, who gave her a quiet, almost apologetic smile. Lily added seriously, Daddy said you were our angel. Eva knelt beside her. That was a scary night. But you were the bravest little girl I've ever seen. Lily leaned in and hugged her. Caleb watched silently, something unreadable in his eyes. Later that day, he sent her one line via internal message. She doesn't hug people like that. Not often. That weekend, Caleb invited her to dinner. Not a formal dinner. Not anything planned or pressured. Just dinner. Lily would be there. He mentioned that first, almost to deflect the meaning. Eva hesitated, then said yes. The 3 of them ate takeout at his place. Thai food and laughter, sticky rice on the table, coloring books mixed with project sketches. Eva sat barefoot on the couch while Lily braided her hair. At some point, Caleb leaned back in his chair, watching them both with a softness that startled even himself. In that moment, the house didn't feel empty anymore. Neither did she. And for the first time, the space between them didn't feel professional. It felt personal, and very, very real. It started with a glance. Not from Caleb. Not from Eva. From someone else, someone watching. It was a Monday morning when Eva noticed it. A subtle pause in conversation as she passed by the design bullpen. A junior associate, Kelsey, sharp-eyed and always on top of office gossip, turned quickly to her screen the moment Eva walked by. The air felt off. Later that day, during a team sync, Eva caught Dahlia looking at her differently. Not cold, just curious. Measuring. like she was trying to solve a puzzle she hadn't realized existed until now. By midweek, Eva's inbox was still full of project briefs and feedback requests, but her gut told her something had shifted. The invisible balance of respect and privacy, the unspoken agreement between her and Caleb, was fraying. Then it happened. Eva returned from a meeting to find her name mentioned in a Slack thread she hadn't been tagged in. It wasn't malicious, at least not on the surface. Funny coincidence, isn't she the one who had that thing with the CEO? I heard he stayed at her place before she even joined the company. Seriously? That can't be real. Check her hire date. Look at the timeline. Her stomach dropped. Her screen blurred. And for a brief, sickening moment, all the warmth she'd begun to feel inside Stone Tech felt like a trapdoor swinging open beneath her feet. She stood up without a word and made her way straight to the restroom. Locked herself in the last stall and sat down on the closed toilet lid, breathing slowly through her nose. They knew. Or they thought they knew. Which might be worse. She didn't cry. But her hands shook. That afternoon, Dahlia knocked lightly on the side of Eva's cubicle. "You have a moment?" she asked, voice gentle but lined with formality. Eva nodded and followed her to a small, glass-walled office. Inside sat two people from HR, notebooks open. No nameplates. Just polite expressions and stifled concern. "We just want to clarify a few things." One of them began, a man named Craig. "There have been some whispers circulating internally about your relationship with Mr. Stone." Eva stiffened. "We're not in a relationship." They exchanged glances. Craig cleared his throat. "Of course. No one's making accusations. But there's some confusion about the circumstances surrounding your hire." Dahlia added quickly, "You've done incredible work here, Eva. This isn't disciplinary. But optics matter." Eva looked down at her hands, fingers knotting together in her lap. "I didn't even know who he was the night we met. He and his daughter were stranded. I gave them shelter. That's it. Did he recommend you for the position?" "No. I applied through the site like everyone else. I got a call back. Went through 3 rounds. And since working here, have there been personal encounters? Outside of work?" Eva hesitated. The silence answered for her. "We understand," Craig said softer now. "This happens. We just need to protect the integrity of the workplace." Eva clenched her jaw. "So what happens now?" "We're recommending a voluntary department transfer. You'd stay within the creative division, still on the rebrand, but under a different team lead. A little distance could help reduce distractions." "Distractions for who?" she asked, more sharply than she intended. Dahlia exhaled. "Eva, I believe you. But I also know this place. Once rumors start, they're hard to put out." That night, Eva didn't go home. She stayed at her desk long after the lights dimmed, the screen glowing against her pale face. Her eyes were dry but hollow, fingers idle on the keyboard. She wasn't angry. Not exactly. She felt exposed. A quiet footstep broke her thoughts. She didn't need to look up to know it was him. Caleb stood a few feet away, coat slung over one arm, the other hand loosely in his pocket. He said nothing at first, just took her in. "I heard," he said finally. Eva turned slowly. "I'm sorry," he said. "I should have predicted it. I should have protected you." She laughed once, a bitter edge to it. "By doing what?" "Telling the whole office that we're not sleeping together, but might someday." He flinched. "I'm not ashamed of that night," she continued, voice tight. "But I didn't sign up to be the whisper in someone's break room." "I know." She stood. "They offered me a transfer." Caleb's jaw tightened. "I didn't ask them to do that." "I believe you. But it doesn't matter, does it? I'll always be the woman who took in the CEO, whether I'm in the same department or not." He stepped forward. "Eva." She looked up at him, eyes brimming but dry. "I need time. Space. I'm not walking away because I'm afraid of people. I'm walking away because I don't want what we had, what we might have, to feel tainted by all this." He searched her face, and in that moment, something in him broke a little. "I never wanted this for you," he said quietly. "I know," she whispered. "But it happened anyway." She brushed past him and left the office, heels clicking against the tile. She didn't cry until she got home. For 3 weeks, they didn't speak. Not directly. She was transferred to the sister team, working on the internal UX interface for the employee portal, important but invisible. Caleb respected the boundary. He didn't show up at her desk. He didn't message. But every now and then, she'd glance at her inbox and see that someone had viewed her draft presentations. Or she'd find a tiny sticky note on her monitor, and signed, with simple feedback. Nice touch on the sidebar transition. And once, she opened her drawer to find a single folded paper. Lily's drawing of the 3 of them. No message. Just the stars above them. And the house. The first snow of the season came early. It fell softly in the late afternoon, blanketing the city in a hush that made everything feel suspended. Traffic slowed, footsteps softened, and the world took a collective breath. Eva sat alone in her apartment, lights low, tea gone cold beside her. She stared at the drawing again, Lily's drawing, the one that had appeared in her drawer a week ago. Folded, quiet, hopeful. She had studied it every night since, always finding something new. The bright yellow stars, the oversized smiles, the way all 3 stick figures held hands beneath a crooked rooftop. She hadn't even realized Lily had noticed the way Caleb's fingers brushed hers that night in the hallway. Kids noticed everything. Eva exhaled slowly. She had avoided him for 23 days. Not because she was angry, but because it hurt not to miss him. She missed the way he spoke in half sentences and expected her to understand. The way Lily's voice lit up when she walked into the room. The way his presence made her feel seen without being put on display. More than anything, she missed how natural it had felt. Effortless. Like breathing. She hadn't felt that way in years. Outside, the snow thickened. Inside, something shifted. She grabbed her coat. The drive to his neighborhood was quiet, white snow piling on the windshield in rhythmic waves. She didn't call ahead. She didn't need to. Either he'd be there or he wouldn't. Either way, she needed to knock one last time. When she reached his street, everything looked just as she remembered it from the night he'd been taken in. Peaceful, tucked beneath a veil of stillness. His townhouse glowed faintly from within. Warm light behind curtains, a hint of a fire flickering on the far wall. She hesitated only a moment before walking up the path and ringing the bell. It wasn't Caleb who answered. It was Lily, barefoot in socks, wearing pajamas with tiny blue rockets. She blinked, surprised, and then squealed. "Miss Eva." Eva couldn't help but smile. "Hi, sweetheart." Lily threw the door wide and ran straight into her legs, wrapping her arms around them. Caleb appeared behind her, stopping short when he saw who was standing on the porch. He was in jeans and a thermal shirt, casual, barefoot, one hand holding a dish towel. His expression faltered, not guarded but stunned. "Eva." She stood in the doorway, snow caught in her lashes, breath forming clouds. "Hey," she said. "Are you okay?" "I don't know," she admitted softly. "But I think I'm ready to stop avoiding what I already know." He stepped forward slowly past Lily, who had now run back inside to fetch something, probably a drawing. "I didn't want to push," he said. "I wanted to give you room. But every day I didn't talk to you, it got harder to pretend I was doing the right thing." Eva looked at him, really looked at him, and saw it, all of it. The restraint, the hurt, the hope. She stepped inside, and he closed the door behind her. "I transferred because I needed to protect myself," she said. "Not from you, but from what people would say about you. About me. About Lily." He nodded, eyes never leaving hers. "But none of those people were there that night. None of them saw what I saw in you." He swallowed, voice low. "And what did you see?" Eva smiled softly. "A father who gave up everything in a moment to protect his daughter. A man who didn't ask to be saved, but accepted kindness with humility. A man who makes people feel safe without saying a word." Caleb looked down for a second, and when he looked back up, his eyes were glassy. "I tried to tell myself it wasn't the right time," he whispered. "That if I waited long enough, I'd stop thinking about you every time I walked into my office. Or every time Lily mentioned pancakes." She stepped closer. It doesn't matter what people think, she said. It matters what we do with the choice we're given. Caleb's voice broke slightly. What are you choosing? Eva took his hand, no hesitation, no fear, and held it tightly between hers. You. A breath escaped his lips like relief, like surrender. I choose the man who let himself be vulnerable. The girl who taught me kindness means more when it's quiet. I choose this, whatever this is becoming. Not because it's convenient, but because it's real. For a moment, the world slowed. Then Caleb leaned forward, resting his forehead against hers. No kiss. Just contact. Intimate. Steady. Earnest. Lily returned, holding a crayon drawing high in the air. I made a new one, she said proudly. Now the house has a dog in it too. Eva laughed, and Caleb chuckled softly against her temple. Guess we're getting a dog, he murmured. She leaned into him. Guess so. That night, they didn't rush anything. Eva stayed for dinner. They played a board game with Lily, drank hot cocoa, and didn't check their phones once. When it got late, he offered to drive her home, and she declined, choosing instead to sit a while longer beside the fire. And when she left, wrapped in his jacket, Lily's drawing in her bag, Caleb stood at the door, watching her disappear into the snowfall. This time, she wasn't just a memory of a stormy night. She was a choice, a beginning, and maybe a forever. We have come to the end of the story. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave a like and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more interesting stories.